first political party, the president, the leader of the party joins us this morning, Mr. Harry Kalaba. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Luchi, and good morning, our listeners and viewers from wherever you are listening to us and watching us from.
And
Luchi, it's good to be here.
it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Last time I saw you, I thought I would wait until the season ended because last time I saw you, you were very upbeat about Arsenal's chances of winning the league. That didn't happen. And so I thought, let me invite you again in
January. I think we've got so many people who are wishing us ill, and that's But let's see how this season goes, Luchi.
And what a great time as well for Harry Kalaba to come in because obviously on Sunday Arsenal play Manchester United. As a Manchester United fan,
Big match.
There's no better way
than
to have an Arsenal fan and tell him that you're going to lose on Sunday. So
that's what I'm saying. It's more than 90 minutes.
More than 90 minutes.
Indeed.
How have you been though? How's the party?
The party is good. We are pushing. The party is growing at a very exponential pace. I want to say thank you to my colleagues that I'm working with who have taken the work of the party very seriously. I can tell you that we are everywhere in the country now. We are hardly 2.5 years old, but it's like we've been in existence for the last 10, 15 years, competing shoulder to shoulder with parties that have existed long before we were created. And I just owe it to my colleagues in the party for their hard work, for their resilience, the sacrifices that they're putting in every day is what is counting. Yeah.
And you were recently in Pambashi, which is where we'll start from our conversation this morning, where your candidate, you weren't able to file in a candidate for that particular by-election. Do you just want to give everybody a sense of what transpired? Because obviously you hear news reports, but sometimes they do get skewed. So maybe we can hear it from you. What transpired?
Well, in Pambashi, I can tell you that we were ready to file. People came in their numbers to come and support Eska Kayumba, our candidate, who was representing UKA, as well as being fielded on the Citizens First. We were supposed to have initially filed in at 09 hours. Then later on, it was changed to 1450. I think our colleagues asked that we change to 1450. And the ECZ agreed to doing that. When the time for filing in came, I think our candidate went in at about 15:20 somewhere there. That's when he entered the filing in place. I was only to receive a call myself that they have said that I do not have the actual voters card for 2021, the new one. I've got the old one for 2016. And the ECZ says they cannot accredit me. So I was taken aback because what I know is that a voter's card is not one of the qualifications, or it's not one that you should show to say, if I don't show it to you, then I don't qualify to stand as a member of parliament. I wanted Luchi, for the sake of our listeners and viewers out there, to read what the Constitution says on the voter's card. The Constitution says, regarding qualifications for a member of parliament, the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act number 2 of 2016 provides that a person is eligible to be elected as a member of parliament if that person, 1, is a citizen, 2, is at least 21 years old, 3, is a registered voter, 4, has obtained as a minimum academic qualification certificate or its equivalent, and 5, declares persons' assets and liabilities as prescribed. I'll take particular interest in point number 3, which says, is a registered voter. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has or always has the register of those who are registered in a particular area to confirm whether the person is registered or not. The ECZ did confirm that Eska Kayumba is a registered voter. despite him not going with his voter's card, because the constitution is not saying he should have gone with the voter's card. It is only saying he must be a registered voter. That notwithstanding, we managed to get his voter's card, which he had erroneously left home. The one for 2021. We got that card. We got it authenticated by the Commissioner of Votes, had it sent into Mushota, and presented it 30 minutes after the returning officer had queried the old voter's card. And remember, the returning officer was busy consulting with McDonald Chipenzi, who was there with us in Kawambo. When they were given the correct documents, at about 16 hours, way within the time frame, because from what I know, it's about after 18, that's when you can have a problem, but it was 16. We gave them the documents, and they said it was not clear. They could not clearly see whether the police had stamped it or not. So we had again to go out, and that's a rural place.
So the distance.
So the distance from where the polling station was and where we were printing the documents was a bit far. So we had to go far, drive there, reprint the document, bring it to them. And in the interim, we also had colleagues, Ruchi, who took the same voter's card for Kayumba, went and took it to the magistrate in Mushota, because the returning officer and McDonald Chipenzi were saying that it was not clear. So what did we do? We said, let's kill two birds with one stone. You guys go and reprint so that it can be clearer, while the other ones can still take this one, which we have printed this voter's card. Let's take it to the commissioner here in Kawambo to authenticate it.
So you have two separate documents.
So I have two separate documents to beat the challenge. That was done. We presented that one for Kawambwa, where it was clear the commissioner of votes had signed and authenticated. So McDonald Chipenzi calls me and says, how come the man has authenticated this here in Shota when the voter's card is in Mansa? So he said, no, actually we had a video call, and we showed him the voter's card. Our provincial chairman was in Mansa, showed him the voter's card, and was doing it from Mansa Central Police, because Mansa Central Police had authenticated it from there. And so when they were dilly-dallying, we said, okay, what you do is go at Mansa Central Police, where the officers who have authenticated that card are, and let's do a video call with the magistrate. So the magistrate can see the card, and the magistrate saw the card, and upon seeing the card, the magistrate said, okay, I've authenticated this copy I've sent. And he signed it. McDonald Chipenzi says, no, we want to see the magistrate here. Can you bring the magistrate to us so that we can see him? And we ask him, how did he authenticate this thing? So we explained to him, he says, no, we want him here. He must come and swear before the Bible that what he did was correct. And there is no provision for what McDonald Chipenzi was doing. So we had to leave the polling station to go and fetch the magistrate. In the interim, the other copy, which had come from Mansa, already authenticated by the police, had been sent, had been printed now, and we were taking it now to the returning officer. And we had given it to them. McDonald Chipenzi says, no, we should wait for the magistrate. He delays working on that document, which is now clear, which he earlier on said was not clear. It is now clear before them. And he says, no, we are not going to act on this. We wait for the magistrate to come so that he can tell us. So I tell McDonald, so Chipenzi, there is no correlation between you waiting for the magistrate and you doing what is prescribed in the Constitution. You are not doing us a favor as Electoral Commission of Zambia. This is our right. Can you please follow the laid down guidelines? He said, no, we have to do our work. I don't know which work McDonald Chipenzi was getting that authority from. The magistrate, like enough, agreed to come. He came to Mushota polling station to say, yes, I have authenticated this. I've seen the card and I've authenticated this card. To their embarrassment, when the magistrate said that, they said, no, but who called you here to come? So he said, I was told that I should be brought here by McDonald Chipenzi. He requested for me and he said I should see the returning officer. The returning officer says, no, We are going to deal with it. I call McDonald Chipenzi, because he was hiding in my office there at the school. I said, Chipenzi, look at what has happened now. The magistrate has been turned away by the returning officer. So what happens now? He says, no, don't worry, we are going to handle it. Little did we know that they were buying time so that they can disqualify the citizens first. What we have done is that we are not going to let the Electoral Commission of Zambia get away with it. That is wrong. The Electoral Commission of Zambia is not there to disadvantage political players. Their job is to enhance democratic dispensation, not for them to choose who should go in and who should not go in. There is no provision anywhere in the Constitution which says the voter, the member of parliament should come with a voter's card. It is not there.
Regardless of whether it's expired or not.
Regardless of whether it's expired or not. It is not there. Their job was to check within the register, which they have. That's their job. To check whether Eskaya Kayumba was appearing. And Eskaya Kayumba was appearing. They even saw he was appearing.
But on which card? Maybe you can just clarify this, because you said that they, according to you, you say the ECZ said that the card that was used was expired.
They said it was a 2011 card.
Which is an expired card.
Yes. Which he had presented to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted the latest card. So he told them, I have the latest card.
Also, he had the latest card.
The latest card was there. That's the one I'm telling you.
Okay, so that's the one
authentication.
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
That's the one that we began authenticating. And we gave it to them.
Can I ask why you needed authentication? Because I'm assuming the 2011 one didn't need authentication. Is there a particular reason why there was need for
we
authentication?
just do it for reasons of convenience. Okay. We're not inconvenienced. Okay. But there is no provision anyway.
Okay.
But because the card was in Mansa and we were in Kawambwa, it needed to be authenticated because we're giving them a photocopy to show them that the real card is there. We showed them on phone. The card is there. You have the register there. Kayumba is appearing there. And we have gone to Mansa Police. Mansa Police has authenticated that the original card is with them. And can we please go ahead and do that? And they should have just obliged and proceeded to do that. But no, they started waiting for the magistrate to come so that they can complicate things and delay the CF from filing in. So we thought that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is becoming a hindrance. They have an interest in political players who are participating.
But this isn't the first election that you've participated in as citizens first. A first
No.
by-election.
No.
In all the other by-elections, has there been a requirement for the presentation of a voter's card?
In fact, like the one I'm talking about, we had a by-election in Iyaya Ward. The candidate only had an authentication of his voter's card. And the electoral officers counter-checked that he was appearing when the voters wrote. And they went ahead and accepted them. Because the requirement is that you must be a registered voter. And it is not saying where you should be a registered voter. You can be a registered voter here, in Lusaka, you can be a registered voter anywhere else. It says be a registered voter. But in the wisdom of McDonald Chipenzi, he did not want the citizens first to register because he saw the huge crowds that were playing there. And clearly could see. I'm not accusing him of anything. I don't want to be accusing people here because he's not here to defend himself. But clearly, in my own view, you could see that Comrade Chipenzi was maybe trying to side with another political party. He himself knows which one he's supporting. But clearly, he was not supporting our party, and we don't need him to support us because he has never supported us. What we needed was the constitution to be followed. And because we feel we have been mistreated by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, we have proceeded. As you and I are speaking now, we have filed in a petition against the nomination that was held in Pambashi on the 7th of January.
On the grounds that you just stipulated?
On the grounds that we have just stipulated, that the Electoral Commission of Zambia was erroneous, they mistreated us, they disenfranchised us, they had no business doing what they had to do on that day. They had no business doing what they were doing that day. So we have gone to court to teach the ECZ a lesson that they're not doing us a favor. We are citizens of this country. We are going to defend the democratic credentials of this country. And we are praying that the courts will look at the merits of our arguments and deal with the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Because if the ECZ continues on this trajectory, Luchi, we'll have a problem. Because the political players will lose confidence in that electoral commission of Zambia. Even when they will do something right, we all think it's just a sham. Because of people that are partisan. This is what we have been saying. You can't have an electoral commission of Zambia full of cadres from the UPND. You can't do that. That ECZ is infested with people from the UPND. So you can't have the Electoral Commission of Zambia, which is like an appendage of the ruling party. Then you are defeating the whole essence of democratic credentials. This is the worst composition of the ECZ I've ever seen myself. From the time that we got our independence, this ECZ is coming out to be the most biased, the most unprofessional, and I think the earlier it is disbanded, the better, because we are heading towards a very emotive period of elections in 2021. And if we have an ECZ which can be mishandling parliamentary elections the way it is doing, clearly showing favorites, we are going to have a problem.
You say favorites, but let me ask you this: and hindsight is always a wonderful thing. In hindsight, shouldn't your candidate have just carried the voter's card that he used in 2021? If that had happened, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Am I correct?
Yeah, we would not be having that conversation. But that as it may be, it is not the business of the ECZ to bring in rules which are not there. Look at how they are changing rules. From nowhere now, for a councillor to stand, you need the president of a party and the secretary general of the party to sign the certificate of adoption. Since when? Because before, even my district chairman, even my constituency chairman, even if it's a ward elections, even my ward chairman would sign the certificate for as long as he's an official of the party. They would say, this is our member, and he's got the right to sign that adoption certificate. But now, because they are playing politics of destabilizing political parties, they see the weaknesses in other parties, and the ECZ gets those weaknesses and begins using them against the parties. That's what they have done for the former ruling party. That's what the ECZ is trying to do when they did that in Kaombo for us. It's because they saw that there was this lapse, and because of that, they wanted to now exploit that lapse, even when that lapse did not advantage them. We beat them to it. What did they do? They had to dilly-dally until it was 1830. Then they said, oh, time has passed. Because here, look, they are the ones managing the process. They even received the money from the candidate. The ECZ even took the picture from the candidate. It was at the point of them now issuing the receipt that the returning officer got a note, I think, from McDonald Chipenzi, saying that, no, our time has passed. How do you do things like that? How do you just decide that this is how it should be stopped? So our candidate, they realized that the issue of the voters' card was not going to stand. Now they had to say, we are stopping this nomination. They have been disqualified the citizens first because they have run out of time that we gave them. Yeah. Who was delaying the process? Who was saying, go and bring the magistrate? Who was saying, go and, this is not clear, go and do this? It was the ECZ. They knew themselves that they had a certain time from within which they should have operated. Why did they keep saying, go and bring the magistrate? No, we'll wait for him here. Because McDonald Chipenzi, I was talking to him myself. And he kept saying, no, we'll wait for the magistrate to come. So I told McDonald, why would you want the magistrate to come when we have given you already a clear copy of the authentication from Mansa? He said, no, because the magistrate also signed, so that's good for us to know these things. He was buying time, and clearly, he was not on the side of the law. It is jungle law he was following.
I feel, and there are a lot of people, by the way, who are sending text messages who have the same thought that I have. That, again, in hindsight is a wonderful thing. If your candidate had just taken the correct voter's card, again, we wouldn't be here. So is there, I know that you've decided to go to court.
So are you saying...
Yeah.
So are you saying because our candidate went with that document, therefore he's the one who has brought this whole thing up?
I think you could make that argument, yes. I think that the inconvenience of you having to travel from one point to the other, the police station, having to video call a magistrate, having to get a magistrate to come in, I think all of that would Again, we don't know, but I'm assuming that it would have all been avoided had the correct documents been presented.
Yes, but
Yeah.
also what this has done, Lochi, in my view, is that it has exposed the Electoral Commission of Zambia. It has exposed them, and that's how God works. It has exposed them because they are trying to put in laws which are not there. They're trying to infringe on our rights as political players. They have been exposed because of that same mishap which was there. I acknowledge and I admit that due diligence next time will have to be done correctly so that we don't fall into the traps of the UPND. But clearly, even this mishap has exposed the Electoral Commission of Zambia badly, that they don't want to follow the law, they want to disenfranchise, and they should stop it.
Okay, so you've gone to court, but have you taken any other avenue within the ECZ? I know again you've accused them of being partisan, but have you written to the Electoral Commission itself to, to show your displeasure and say, look, what you did, we don't think it's constitutional?
We are dealing with it from a two-way arrangement. I mean, I only arrived in Lusaka yesterday,
Yeah.
and a letter is being written to Madam Zalomis telling her that we are displeased with how the issue was handled and that we have taken them to court. And of course, they'll be served the court documents. There's a provision within the Electoral Act that after 7 days of filing in the nomination, political parties can petition. And so we have just used that window and we are petitioning so that ECZ can know that it's not free for all. This is a very emotive period. It's a time that we should respect one another in our democratic spaces, and that no one is going to infringe upon the rights of another and then they get away with it. This should not happen. We are doing this for the sake of posterity. We don't want this to happen to any other political party again. And we don't want ECZ to think that they have got unlimited powers over political players. They must know that they can be taken on if they mishandle their job. We want the Electoral Commission of Zambia to behave like other Electoral Commission of Zambia before them. This is not the first ECZ that we're having in this country. We have had the ECZ in 1991, we had ECZ in 2011, we had ECZ all along. But this is the first time that we are seeing the Electoral Commission of Zambia going so low, below par, that they want to personally get entangled in the election. It's the first time that I'm seeing commissioners, Luchi. I'm seeing commissioners going a week before going to sit there in the where the elections are happening, the elections are happening. It's the first time. What I know is that the returning officers and the other electoral officers are sufficient. So if there's a problem, where do people go? Chipenzi was hiding in that office at the nomination center. Mr. Chipenzi should have come out when he heard that we had this issue, but was talking to me on phone. I think, yes, it was good we were talking on phone. But when there was that issue, he needed to say, can we resolve this? The issue of the Electoral Commission of Zambia is to resolve matters, not to complicate them. Because complicating them is not good for the electoral process. Zambia is a democratic country. We are a beacon of hope. And one of the institutions that have helped us to be a beacon of hope is the Electoral Commission of Zambia. We are therefore putting it on record with this ECZ that they have to pull up their socks and just do what is right for the country and let the best players win. That's all.
There's a question from somebody again who says, why is it that every political party that takes over from another party changes commissioners at the commission?
It's a very good question and very valid question. Why do we change commissioners? It is because of the same way these commissioners behave when they're in office. You know? It's because of the way they behave. They change them and bring in their own. CF going in government, we'll just have to look at the merits and demerits of the commissioners who are there. I don't know if commissioners like Chipenzi will make it. But if they improve on their behavior, why not? He's a Zambian. We know he applied to become a UPND candidate in Chirundu, but that is his right anyway. But what we'll do ourselves is to look at how he is performing.
I know you're singling him out a little unfairly. Again, considering the fact that you and him,
I'm not singling him out, but because
it is him conversations
and him had interaction with
during. Someone else says when you were in government, you were accusing those currently of being political, but even in the past there were those that were within the ECZ who may or may not have been siding with the party in government. So I think maybe my big question then is how do we get to a place where we have a true semblance of independence, such that
Look, at the
even
elect-
yourself, even though you've been inconvenienced, you don't come around and say it's because somebody is taking a political side.
Aluch, at the Electoral Commission of Zambia today, you have Ndioye Mutiti. She's a commissioner there. She was a commissioner in the PF government, and she's still a commissioner under the UPND. I think there is also retired Colonel Amukandila or something like that. He too is a commissioner in the ECZ. He was a commissioner before, and they have maintained him. Why? It's because probably it's the way they have been conducting themselves. And they have tried to be as professional as possible, and they're trying to make sure that. But even when you look at people like Comrade Shindano, Criticos and Shindano was very professional in the manner I was dealing with things. Very, very professional. Justice Chulu was very professional in the manner. I was in the opposition, and I'm saying professional, when he was appointed by the former ruling party, and I was in opposition. But Justice Chulu is one I could call and say, I'm coming to see you. I am not satisfied, even when they did these voters' cards. Because I was thinking that the voters' cards that they were doing were not genuine. So I went to see him and I said, we are CF, we want to see the features. And he was so gracious to sit down with us. He called his people and said, these are the features. This is one of the most secure things. Very professional. Not what we are seeing now. Not what we are seeing now.
Okay, just two last things on this, and then we'll move on. Um, there's no name on this, but they say just on your point about council and mayors, they say that isn't it a good thing to have a council or a mayor election certificate signed by party presidents? This is obviously because some political parties do have factions, and so you do want to have the correct faction leader, I suppose, sign documents.
It's a valid thing, but what I'm saying is, since time immemorial, we have been having a ward chairman sign the certificate for a ward councillor. And if there is no problem in that party, why would you insist that the president should sign a certificate of adoption for a ward councillor? Because if you raise the issue of factions, there maybe it could be understandable. But in a situation where you don't have that, but even where there are factions, there is the law. The law is saying who is the legitimate and who is not the legitimate. I'll give you an issue of what happened in Kawata constituency under the former party that we were in. There were others who were claiming that they also had a candidate. And we were on the side of the law because everything that was done, there was no court order to stop us from performing. And the ECZ then said, look, there's no court order telling us that these people cannot present a candidate to us. Give us a court order. Then we are going to comply. There was no court order. So yes, we should allow operatives of the party. In politics, everyone wants to feel their position. They want to feel important. But if everything is going to be done by the president and the secretary general of the party, the ward chairman, the constituency chairman, under whose jurisdiction the wards fall, will begin feeling that they are inferior and that there's nothing that they are doing. It's everything coming from Lusaka. We would want the Electoral Commission of Zambia to tell us where they are getting the powers to tell us that somebody should be he should be coming from this party, should be secretary general, should be president, he should be what? Where are they getting those powers from? I think that's the problem that we have.
Okay. Is the intention from yourself still to be candidate in 2026, or is there a conversation at the moment about alliances and that's on the back burner a little? What's the correct position?
What do you mean now? I want to be candidate?
Well, there is this talk, and I know that the Citizens First is a member of one of the alliances, and there is this talk of fielding one particular candidate within the alliances. So what I'm asking you is it still your intention to be part of an alliance that chooses to have one candidate, or is your intention to be the candidate for Citizens First outside of an alliance? What is the current conversation?
I belong to a political alliance called OKA.
Yeah.
And the United Kwacha Alliance will be choosing its flag bearer. I think within the course of February or so, I'm sure. We'll choose a flag bearer of our organization. UCA will choose who will stand from the parties that are members of UCA. And we are all going to rally around that candidate. If UCA says they're choosing another person apart from Harry Kalaba will have to follow what UCA says. Right now, the Citizens First had a general conference, as you know, Roach. And the CF chose me to be their presidential candidate in 2026. But the Central Committee of our party also knows that we are affiliated to the United Kwacha Alliance. So what that endorsement has done is that the party has just paved way for me to stand as the president in 2026. But we are also still waiting for what UCA will decide as to who will be our candidate in 2026. We are tired of having to split votes. This issue of splitting votes is not right. That is why us in UCA are taking these things very, very seriously. We want to ensure that we remain coordinated, we remain united. The English adage says, united we stand, divided we fall. Therefore, we want to ensure that we get glued to one another so that we can present a formidable opposition going forward. And UCA remains very open to working with also other opposition parties of similar mind so that we can remove this government which is currently in place, which has managed to hike the prices of essential commodities, which is always increasing the price of fuel every month. This is the government that told us they'll reduce the price of minimum. They have not done that. We have to ensure that we get rid of the UPND in 2026, next year. We bring in a government that will be pro-poor, a government that will also give tax incentives to the marketeers. Today, as you and I are speaking, there's a market which has been demolished in town there. This is rainy season. This is time for school fees to be paid. Where would they work from? Where would they raise the funds from? So all those issues, a government that loves the poor people should be mindful.
Okay, I'll come back to that because it also borders on law, on the rule of law. But I'll come back to it just in a few seconds. Is this the reason why you've been meeting other political parties outside of UCA? Obviously, I know that you have been engaging other political parties. Is that the reason why?
Yes. We've been very active. I think you saw me meeting the former president.
Yeah.
We had lengthy discussions, and it was about opposition unity, because we all understand that there must be unity in diversity, and that united we stand, divided we fall. We had agreed that we are going to work on the differences. I think we should focus on the strengths instead of the differences, and we are hoping that in future that is going to materialize. We keep trying.
Yeah.
The guy who invented the bulb, I'm told, tried a lot of times. Is it 99 times until the 100th time? That's when it worked. So it could not have worked now. It doesn't mean that we give up. We still have to pick the pieces up and continue pushing until this thing works.
Can I ask, because I know that you were a member of PF and you obviously left because you believed that there was corruption at the time. If there's ever a situation where Tonse and comes to UCA and says, look, we want to come in, and obviously Tonse brings PF as well with it, is that an engagement that you're willing to cooperate with, even in the spirit of we all need to unite, considering everything that's happened in the past?
Look, I think they say that we all fail and we all have to learn from our mistakes. We do not want to begin judging anybody harshly here, but all we were trying to say is that the PF was in government. They were removed from government. They must have learned their lessons of having been in government and what it means to lose power. And I'm sure that they have made amends going in future. I want to believe that there's been change that has happened, and when they come to say we want to work with you people in UCA, I think why not?
Okay.
So they're welcome to join us in UCA.
Okay. So, like you said, this is an emotive time. We're going into elections. I think most people would like to hear, what what the plan is. And this is always difficult for me at the moment because I talk to opposition leaders who belong to alliances and they don't even know whether they will be candidates. So it's very difficult for me to have some of these conversations to say, what is the plan if you form office? But I'm going to ask you anyway. Because
From the citizens' perspective.
yes, from the citizen's perspective rather than from an alliance point,
Yeah.
because I know there hasn't been a conversation there. But what is the plan from citizens first on dealing with some of our big problems? And obviously, it begins with the economy. It begins with the economy first. Um, Secondly, food prices being high for many people, and thirdly, dealing with load shedding. Even though yes, it has started to rain, yes, water levels have gone up, but we don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the rain season. What is the plan on dealing with these these crises that this country has? And we can also add fuel as well, because obviously some people will argue and say monthly fuel price adjustments are the correct way to do it because you're paying the reflective cost of product. But I want to hear from you. I want to hear what the thoughts are of the citizens first.
First of all, on the economy.
Yeah.
Luchi, we have a problem in this country because the economy is in the hands of outsiders. I was saying last time on some other platform, I was saying that you can see how our leaders in government are working extremely hard to put the economy in the hands of outsiders. Look, take for instance our borders. Who's collecting the monies? Nkasumbalesa. We have managed to get a foreigner to be getting money on behalf of you and I. And Kasumbalesa border post, I think, is one of the busiest border posts that we have. Roughly about 2,000 trucks are passing there on a daily basis. And each truck is paying $200. So I leave the maths to you to do. How much is going in private hands instead of the national coffers? You go to Chirundu border also. It's in the hands of foreigners. There also, it's one of the busiest points of entry, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and coming in Kazungula. So, Sakanya border. Why is it that we have allowed outsiders to be managing our most critical aspects of the economy? Why have we done that? Why are we disenfranchising, or not disenfranchising? Why are we taking away from our own people? Why are we not empowering our own Zambian businessmen and women? The Citizens First believes that it is high time Zambians began participating actively in some of these things. You have done the targets right now. Luchi, who is collecting money for the targets? It's foreigners. Why should we be building an economy based on the hands of foreigners? And our leaders are too weak to deal with that problem because of being corrupt. Now, because they are corrupt, they are failing to deal with the substantives. Some of us will tell you that we have a track record of fighting corruption and we'll fight it head on. There is no way you can allow targets to be monies going in the hands of foreigners. Then you look at the mines themselves.
Sorry, just before
when you look at the mines.
Can I just ask? So, regardless of whether there is a talk about a PPP and that's the way of funding building the road, you don't think that whatever the case, toll gates shouldn't have been part of the money transaction?
I've got a problem with that same PPP, especially on the Lusaka and Dollar Joe carriageway. The Lusaka and Dollar Joe carriageway has gotten money from workers' compensation and from NAPSA. What I understand from a public-private partnership is that the private partner should look for resources. The contractor or the investor, he must look for the resources. Once they look for those resources, they invest the resources, and then they recoup their resources after they finish building the project. They recoup their resources over a certain period of time. That's how PP works. Now, when you go and get money from workers' compensation, when you go and get money from NAPSA, those are quasi-government institutions that are getting money from. What you're basically doing is that you as Zambians are funding it, and then you give it to a foreigner to do it for you. What was wrong, Luchi, from us getting a Zambian contractor, especially that the funds were coming from NAPSA and the workers' compensation? Why not get a Zambian contractor to do the Lusaka and Dollar Joe carriageway? Don't we have enough engineers in this country who can do the Lusaka and Dollar Joe carriageway? We have. But the problem is, We don't want to deal with Zambians because these leaders in offices, they are saying Zambians talk a lot when it comes to giving 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 the money, you know, in the dark. They say they talk too much. The Chinese don't talk, but the Zambians, they like talking too much. The Chinese also talk, or whoever they're giving those projects, they also talk. You say they don't talk simply because you don't understand their language when they're talking. Now, you fail to give your own people, while you are using their own money to develop the economy, and you give an outsider contractor. You know what that does? It's capital flight. Most of the money that should be remaining in Zambia are going outside of this economy. The same is happening in the mining sector. You find that most of the companies or most of the investments, such as come in our country, is from outside. We have failed to get our own Zambian people to run our local mines. CF in government will have to ensure that the face changes. We need to have Zambians getting involved, not just Zambians being limited to dump sites. No, Black Mountain, there's Black Mountain in Kalushi, we give. Yes, we can give them that. Those are residues. But we need to give them the actual wealth. Once they have money in their hands, then you know that things will work. Why is it that this government is more interested in giving tax breaks to outsiders and not their own citizens here? Why have we failed to give the local marketeers here, tax incentives? But we are able to reduce the mineral royalty tax from, is it 10% to 3%, in order to attract investors to go in the mining sector. Up to now, 3 years going into 4 years, we have not seen any investor that they have attracted in the mining sector worth writing about. That is the problem. It is telling you it is smelling all over with corruption. The economy can't grow for as long as Zambians are not involved. There must be a deliberate policy, the way it is in other progressive countries. When you go to Kenya, when you go to Botswana, South Africa, when they were hosting the World Cup in 2010, they were building that the Nelson Madiba Stadium there, is it in Durban, for the World Cup. The price of the local South African contractor was about 2 times the cost of another contractor from outside. You know what the South African government decided? They said they were going to give the local South African contractor, because money was going to remain within their country. There's a liquidity squeeze in this country because monies keep going out of the economy. How can you build an economy when what is remaining here is pocket change? The rest of the money is going out. Which I always talk about this when I meet you. 78% of the exports of this country's economy is coming from the mining sector. You know that. But in terms of the gross domestic product, the GDP, copper and the mining sector is only contributing about 12% to our economic growth. Why? The answer to that is because of the capital flight. When we export our copper, the money is not coming back to hit this economy. That's why the kwacha is always suffocating, because monies that we are realizing from the copper sales are not hitting back our economy, and so we have got a problem. We want to ensure that we include more Zambians, because when we have people like you, Luchi, and others in the mining sector and in all spheres of the economic sectors, it will be easy to keep the money within here. You spend it within here. Maybe you go once in a while for holiday with your family, but you come back here. You'll be building a house, you'll be building farms, you'll be doing this. That money will be here. But the money is that we keep giving our colleagues, the foreigners. It's not right. That is why for us in the Citizens First, we believe that a marketeer deserves serious tax incentives. But we are forcing them to be paying those council levies. If they don't pay, we are closing their stands. It is not right. We must begin looking at the strength of their capital. How can we help them? You just can't be talking CDF, which many people don't even see. So for the economy, Luchi, unless that is done, it will be difficult. Then you talk about the issue of load shedding.
Sorry, let me just. I just want to make a count. I just want to make a question to one of the things that you just said. When you talk about capital flight, and putting mines in the hands of Zambians. That way, they're able to realize. Would a solution also be, because obviously sometimes you've got these contracts and they're really hard to come out of them, but would a solution also be to say to the mines that rather than you sending your money out, that money first of all has to hit the Zambian accounts? Would that be a way
Yes.
of dealing with capital
In fact,
flights?
that's what I've been saying.
Okay.
I didn't want to go in those
Okay,
details
okay,
in this
okay.
program
Okay.
because I know that time is against me. But I will
No,
tell
no, no.
you
I'd
that.
like you. I'd like you to go into
Okay.
some of the details. Yeah.
Luchi, that is exactly what we intend to do as Citizens First. If you recall, I think in 2012 when PF came into government, there was a statutory instrument that was signed. Was it instrument number 52 or something? That was signed, that was compelling mining companies to sell their copper outside
And
then bring back the money in Zambia, and then they can use it in whatever way they want to do it. I think that's the correct way of proceeding. The UPND, when they came, the first thing that they made sure was they told the mining companies, sell as much as you want, keep the money wherever you want to keep it. It should not come to Zambia. Now, people who love the people who love the ordinary citizens cannot do that. We want to ensure that when KCM, when Kansanshi or Lumwana sell their products, let them first of all hit Zanaco. Let them hit into Zambia Bank the monies. Once they just hit our accounts here in Zambia, already changes, the liquidity position of our country. If that doesn't happen, we'll sell as much as we want and we'll continue begging the International Monetary Fund. Luchi, why should we be going to the IMF when we have got emeralds in this country? Why should we be saying no, they'll be giving us tranches of $400 million, after another year we get another tranche of $400 million? Are we serious? When this country is full of emeralds, this country is full of gold, you have found gold in Kasenseri. It's just on top there. Instead of you just getting people from Zambia National Service to say, or the army, go and start digging that gold. Let's collect as much as we can. We'll see how we can then begin bringing in investors to come and process it. You see the gold is there. You say, we are looking for an investor.
Is it a bit more nuanced than just saying that the land is on the ground and so someone can just come and dig for it? Is it a little more nuanced, particularly from the business side? Isn't it a bit more nuanced?
No. The fact of the matter is that that is the correct position. That's how it is. There is gold all over, and the people know where the gold is. That's why they had to send people to go, the police to go and ring fence that area. Instead of ring fencing that area, let those people go inside, let them start digging and then processing it. Why can't we do some of these things on our own? We are quick to go to the Paris Club, quick to go to the IMF and the World Bank to go and borrow money from there. But we don't want to use our local resources. CF in government will want to account for these things. I think just recently there was a report on the amount of copper that was sold to Dubai. Here we are declared. Dubai gave us the correct position. And the same thing had happened between 2014 and 2018 when we sold copper to China. China told us you sold us this volume as we had declared here. We have always said as Citizens First that what we need is to have, like Kaunda had, Memako. Memako's job basically was to cross-check that what the mines were purporting to be selling
is the correct
is the correct thing.
I know the minister of
and
mines,
we used to get our correct
I know the minister of mines has been talking about setting up something like that to track how much copper is going out so that we get the correct numbers. So I do know that there's a conversation there, but I do wonder from a citizen's first perspective. So again, and I hear a lot of politicians come in and say this, that we need to take ownership of our mines. What does that look like under Citizens First? Is it a simple, you come into office, let me not give you a number of days, but you come into office and you say, look, if you're an investor in our mines, you've got X number of days.
No.
What is it? Because
it will not work like that.
So what is it when you say we need to put mines back?
What will happen is that it is the policy position that will change.
Okay.
Going forward.
Okay. What is that policy? The
policy position is that we will want to, whichever investor is coming to mine our copper or owning a mine in this country, they must be going into partnership with Zambians, so that Zambians also have a share, that they have a stake in those mines. Copper is one of the biggest assets that we have as a country, and yet very few Zambians of influence or prominence can be pointed at to say that one is involved in there, that one is involved there. It is all outside conglomerates that are working in our mines. That is not correct. We have to change that position. We have to begin slowly absorbing into Zambians, even when it comes to emerald production. You just can't have single companies being run by foreign entities getting our emeralds and they're selling them in Tucson in the USA. What we need is Zambians getting involved in their own resources. And so we begin absorbing them slowly but surely. So the policy position on that score is going to change. Zambians must take hold of their own destiny. They must get the country back in their hands. Right now, the country is not theirs.
Okay, I was reading a paper on this Saudi company, Aramco.
Aramco in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, and what they
oil
did,
company.
yes, the oil company. So in the past, it was originally the Americans had control, and then over the years, the Saudis took over. Is that a policy conversation to say, okay, fine, we're looking for investors to come and invest in our emerald sector, but over 5 years you have control, and then you relinquish control 91% back to Zambia. Is that a policy conversation?
You know, the world has changed.
Yeah,
the world has changed. The world has changed in so many ways because of technology and so on and so forth. I think for us, the world is now a global village. There is no harm in us having a South Sudanese or Ugandan owning a mine here. But all we are saying is that you can own. Zambia is part of the global village. But we would want an indigenous Zambian to work with you. If you're going to be here for 100 years, you've owned and you're paying your correct taxes, why not? What we don't want to leave out is just Zambians out of the economic equation. They must be part of the economic equation. 60 years after independence, Luchi, we are about the only country in SADC that does not have a billionaire. If you pointed at one billionaire today, as you and I are speaking, the DEC will go and arrest that person. Because in this country, we don't believe that you can produce a billionaire. Namibia, with a population of about maybe 2.5, 2.8 million people, they have 3 billionaires there. South Africa, don't even talk about them. Tanzania, don't talk about them. I'm talking about our colleagues in SADC. Angola, Zimbabwe, DRC Congo. They all have billionaires, local billionaires. They even have a local bank in the DRC where these billionaires put their money. They're not taking their money outside there. But for us, you are forcing Zambians who earn a little bit to get their money and take it outside, because once the DEC, Luchi tells the DEC, you know that Kalaba has got a good suit. The perfume which he was wearing was not, it was strange. The DEC will be on you. That culture must come to an end. We should celebrate success and not criminalize success. Of course, it is success that is accomplished. Why do we find it odd and strange that a Zambian cannot make it? A Zambian that makes it must be punished. We have got a lot of businessmen and women here that we should have promoted. I have always said, when you go to Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, one of the issues that he did was that he said, before I leave Nigeria's presidency, I want to leave a litany of billionaires. Deliberately, you saw how we have Nigerian banks here. Nigerian banks are in this country. There is no single Zambian bank even opened here in the DRC Congo, where there is a lot of money in Lubumbashi. No single Zambian bank has been opened in Angola, where there is oil all over the place. No single Zambian bank has been opened in Botswana, where there is diamond. We have not done that because our policies inhibit growth. They stifle entrepreneurial growth. And that's what the CF is talking to. We should allow Zambians to thrive. Ngoli marketeer, parape nole bumbela na iwe. Ufiro ambo kumfobu kumu. Ngoli director in some institution where you are operating from need to begin getting celebrated. That's what we are saying. We just can't go on like this as if it's business as usual. It has to change.
Okay. The energy crisis.
The energy crisis, Luchi, is very sad. CF has got 2 solutions to this. It's the short term and the long term. The short term to the energy crisis is that if I were the president, I would have immediately said we stop exporting power to the countries that we're exporting power to. Currently, as you and I are speaking, Zambia is exporting power to South Africa, 100 megawatts of power every day through the SADC Power Pool Agreement. As you and I are talking here, Zambia is exporting 70 megawatts of power to Namibia every day. As you and I are speaking, we are exporting 120 megawatts of power to the DRC Congo. Why should you be exporting power to all these countries when you yourselves, colleagues, are staying the whole day without power? You have to use the genset if you are fortunate, or if you are lucky enough and privileged enough, you have to go on solar. What this means is that abantu abengi amababa shop balisala. Abantu abengi, because of power problems, banavala ma butcheries, banavala kudala. Because of this same power crisis, people who were selling fish have stopped selling fresh fish because they'll not take it anywhere. So what happens to that class? It's poverty. They've been condemned to poverty. And this crisis has gone on for a long time. But if I were president, I would not have been as careless as the UPND government has been careless. I would have flown to Windhoek and met my colleague and told them, look, yes, you have paid in advance. Because power is not like tomatoes. Power is paid for in advance. I would have gone to them, you have paid in advance, but I have a crisis at home. If I continue with the same situation, my economy will collapse. So please, bear with me. We'll deal with the cost later. But for now, instead of you getting your 70 megawatts a day we're giving you, we'll not give you 70 megawatts. We'll suspend supplying of 70 megawatts for the next 6 months. And I fly into DRC Congo and tell them I'm withdrawing the 120 megawatts. I go to South Africa and say I'm withdrawing the 100 megawatts. Lusaka will have only 2 hours of load shedding, and Koba Belt will have 2 hours of load shedding. That is going to help the economy. But this government wants you and I to believe that it's because of the water levels in the Kalaba. Don't listen to that story. Don't listen to that story. Ask them, why are you still exporting power? And the answer they'll give you is because they need to pay salaries to ZESCO workers who are working there, because they get much more money from exporting power than supplying it locally here. What you and I pay locally compared to what they get when they export is much higher. So it is lucrative for them. They are looking at it from a business perspective, not from a humanitarian and government responsibility perspective.
I heard somebody from ZESCO say that one of the reasons why they still export is because power, you can't hold on to power. You can't hold on to electricity. So, for example, in the night, you don't have it. There's an option there. There's a window there that allows you to then export.
But most people which are having power only in the night. I'm an example myself.
Me too.
Yeah, so there we go. The two of us only have power in the night. And you know what? Power in the night and power during the day, the prices are different. In the day, it's more expensive. It's more lucrative because that is when production is happening. In the night, that's when people are sleeping. So it's less production. So for us, our government has decided that when you are sleeping is when power should come because it is cheaper. And when you should be working is when power should be in Namibia. It's when it should be in the Congo DRC. It should be in Malawi. It should be in Zimbabwe, and so on and so forth. That is wrong. So for me, I would have stopped it because there is a provision when you are signing a government-to-government agreement, a force majeure agreement, where you can say there's something we did not foresee that would happen. We are therefore cancelling this contract. I would have had the courage to cancel that agreement, and Zambians would have been enjoying electricity. And if this continues, I can assure you, when I become president, I will ensure that we cancel the contract. I'll go to SADC and I will explain that this is the situation I'm in. You can't keep Zambians in near darkness for 8 months. Now it is normal, almost a year. We are having power for only 2 hours and it's now normal. People have to move with chargers in the vehicles. They have to move with power banks everywhere to go and charge. I know from my residence when my colleagues come to work in the morning, they have to, the first thing I see, they are busy trying to plug their phones in the sockets to charge. You can't do that. You can't reduce your own people to that. The
So
long term,
that's a short term.
that's a short term.
Yeah.
The long term, the load shedding, is that we have to look at the various sources of power. We have depended on hydropower for too long. When I was foreign minister, Luchi, I traveled to Russia. When I went to Russia with the late Secretary of the Cabinet, Siska, we started putting up a plant there along the airport road. Chongwe.
Yes, I had a chat with him before he sadly passed away, and he was talking about setting up a nuclear plant.
Nuclear plant.
In that area. Yes.
We set up that nuclear plant. I am the one who signed for that, because for me, I knew about the energy crisis even when I was foreign minister. So I traveled to Moscow with him. I took him along. We signed that agreement in Chongwe. That nuclear plant was meant to curb the hydropower problem. It was meant to produce power, over 20,000 megawatts of power, which then we would have been selling to everybody within the SADC region, as opposed to what we are seeing now. So we have to diversify, we have to move away from there. But that project has died. We went further to sign a bilateral agreement between Russia and Zambia that every year we'll be sending about 15 students from Zambia into Moscow to study nuclear science. While we are building the plant, we are also training capacity in Moscow, so that when they finish training, they come and run our nuclear plant. But that has fallen through the cracks. Sad, but when we come into government, we are going to resuscitate that nuclear plant. Secondly, I think we also have to invest heavily in issues of solar. Today, we are seeing that people, those that are privileged, have got solar, like yourselves, Luchi.
Wait, which cells? Who are you talking about when you say yourselves? I don't have solar. Sorry.
Oh,
I just want to clarify this so that people don't think I have solar. I don't have solar.
So if Luchi doesn't have solar,
I don't have solar.
if you don't have solar, it means you are in darkness constantly, like my brother Kayombo. What that means is that those people who are bringing in solar machines in the country, they are not making as much or selling as much because of the prices that are inhibiting people to buy. We need to put incentives for those people bringing in solar power. If I were the president, I would have immediately put in a deliberate policy to make it tax-free for all those who are bringing in solar machines, and so that they can be affordable. Right now, to have two lithium batteries and an inverter there, it's about $5,000 you have to pay, which is about 130,000 kwacha.
No, you're buying from the wrong place, by the way.
Yeah.
But I hear your point. I hear your point. I wonder whether an actual solution might be, now this is now speaking to people in places where it's they can't afford, is to have the government subsidize the prices of solar products and give it to them on a cheap, in a way. The same way that they've done with these markets where you put these gensets, but you do a similar thing where it's like a mini grid in a way, a mini solar grid.
I was coming to that.
Okay.
I was coming to that. Because what should happen is like what has happened in Rwanda. You know that Rwanda has got very huge solar farms there. We need to have huge solar farms around the country. We need government to immediately subsidize solar. I was talking about incentives, first of all, for those who are bringing in. But even when they bring in, after you give them incentives, you don't tax them like Chulwa did in 1991. For those who are bringing in DCMs to demystify the transport issues, you do the same with solar. Those that are bringing in solar, let them bring in for free for now for the next period. And then you say, government will also ensure that now we subsidize so that everybody can have access to solar while you're having this energy crisis mix. But there's been nothing to be done on that score. It is business as usual, and they're asking you for re-election. That's what we call jokes. So the Zambians have remained in darkness, no solution in the near future, because even when you talk about long term, we already know the rainfall pattern, Luchi. In the southern corridor, it's no longer raining as it used to rain before. Kaunda and his colleagues concentrated on building dams in the southern corridor because that's where the rainfall pattern was. It has now shifted. It's gone to the northern circuit. So what should happen now is that we should begin building hydropower stations if I don't want to continue that direction. Not anymore in the southern corridor, but in the northern circuit, because that's where the rain belt has shifted to. In that way, you are going to kill this problem of drought, because Kariba. We will not manage to be crying Kariba every time. We know that we don't know about what will happen next year because of the climate change, which is happening. So why don't we begin building in the northern circuit? Tanzania itself today has built where the rains are coming out. They've done hydropower stations, you know that, where the rains are in Iringa there, they have done a lot of power things coming out. Why have they done that? It's because they are proactive and not reactive. We have a government that is extremely reactive and never proactive. We need to kick it out. We need to kick it out so that we can have a government that is proactive, led by Harry Kalaba and his colleagues, who know what to do at the exact time, the exact period, and that Zambians cannot continue wallowing in poverty like this in SADC. Okay. We are a laughing stock.
Okay. Let me take some phone calls because I do know a lot of people want to talk to you. And then there are some points I want to disagree with you on. But first of all, let me invite callers 26841 0968 0978 895 895. I've been here too long. I've been here since 5 o'clock. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Morning. Morning, sir. What's your name?
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Kingford, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you, Mr. Kingford. Go ahead.
Umunali?
Madodi. Hello, Mr. Kingford. Okay, I think we've lost Mr. Kingford. Try and call back 268410978. Hello, good morning. Morning. Okay, thanks. What's your name? Hello. Hi. Morning. What's your name? Mr. Chinyama. Sims. Okay, Sims. Go ahead, Mr. Sims.
Mr. Harker, on contractors, for example, if you ever been to Pedico Road, that road was given by Zambian contractors. Mwasheka tikapo, musebo kuyawadi unaika. Uko balefu pango musebo ule unaika. Even a bridge, but if you push up to now, how do you expect Zambian to perform well? So on Zambian contractors, no, Pedico Road, very passive, go and pass there. It's possible. So Zambian can do better job. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Sims. 2268410978895 895. Hello, good morning. Good morning, sir. What's your name? Yes, Mr. Precious.
Mashuka Precious. Polishani mkwani.
Precious. Thank you, Mr. Precious. Okay. 268410978 We can keep it as brief as we can. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Morning, sir. Morning.
Good morning, sir.
What's your name, sir? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Boggs.
I think the problem I have with the Zambian politicians is they speak for themselves. Because Mr. Kalaba was once in government. Whatever he's talking, it's so good to everybody's ears. I wonder why they didn't do it. These people, they are so selfish, all the politicians. They only speak good when they're out of government. When they're inside, you will never see them speak what is talking right now. And a good example I can give about Mr. Kalaba is the issue of the iPhone 15. That's how selfish these leaders are. Because they want everything so good to themselves. So even right now, he's just speaking for himself. Once, even if any time they will come into government, he's
Collins. Mis- Yeah, Mr. Collins, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. All right, do you want to quickly respond? There are a few points, not really questions, but I guess there are a few points.
Yeah, I think King Fred from Majidova, King Fred, there's a Majido number in. I'll use the local language because you use the local language. And there's a number of Majido Musakamana. Aku extend mobilize, Nalabi Pera number, ending and Apusha program, Maruching a balance munition. Akutila tulanshanya na imoto ngese nabanandi ba constituency chairman unali ofida wasa mwangwango 10 to 1 pam mwirasa kama noko tuli mi papa. Mr. Kanyembo was saying that the Pedico Road is impassable, and I agree with him. It's in a state of disrepair. You know, it's very bad, and he says because of that, we should not give Zambians an opportunity to be investors there. I don't think so. You can't just use one example and use it to generalize. We need to keep encouraging Zambian contractors. Even these Chinese were giving in their own areas, they were being given until they reach a certain standard. That's when now they were recommended to start going out of their own country. So somebody has to start from somewhere. And this is their country. Let's just encourage them to continue working hard. And we are not saying we're going to chase all the I will chase the foreign contractors. We didn't say that. We said there must be partnership and there must be a pro-Zambian policy that will encourage our Zambians to be in charge of their own destiny. Washi Precious, when you don't want to stay in power forever, and whatever opposition unit, I think twachirande Washi Precious na Waluchi, twachirande okutiela ifwenga ba citizens first, abawa muuka United Kwacha Alliance, ifwe twaliba open nokuyiperesha okubomba na ma opposition alliances yambi. Ayo ayali serious nokuchinja obuteko. Bantu ifwenga bawuka ba CF therefore making sure ukuthi la aya mafia mule pitamo mwachula pafula tete abantu balelyo bali pafililo sefo tulefo ayifwe tulefo amwebene mwambe ukula iteka otwapekele independence mu 1964 twaishiba ukuthi twakula isunga manda bwini nomba we are fighting for another independence in 2026 because political independence we don't have it now because the political space is shrinking every day. Economic independence has been given to the foreigners. There's nothing for us in this country. Then you have Collins. He's saying all politicians, Valanda feel they only speak, they are selfish. And you can see from Mr. Kalaba, the iPhone 15. You know, this is not being serious, Collins. Your leader was duped. People were trying to mock your leader, they were trying to steal from your leader, and you take pleasure in that. I think we should change this culture as citizens of our country. We must get concerned when a foreigner again is doing those things. I don't think a Zambian would have gone into Zimbabwe or Botswana and dealt with their opposition leader like that, and the people would be making fun of them the way you are doing, Collins. Let's for once learn to be patriots. And then you say you were in government before. Remember how I left government. And I've always said myself that what we need to do now is to put me in charge of the country's, to be in charge of the country. When I'm in charge of the country, it means I am the driver. And when I'm the driver, I will ensure that the policies I'm articulating here are come to fruition. Mr. Sata, when he was Minister of Labor, when he was Minister of Health, Minister of Local Government, Minister of that portfolio, people said, but you've been Minister before. Why didn't you do the Mansalu-Wimbu Road? Why didn't you do the Pave Zambia 8,000? Why didn't the Link Zambia 8,000? Why didn't you do the Pave Zambia 2,000? He said I was not a president. When we gave him the authority to become president, we also became of his presidents. Zambia became a construction site. We saw roads mushrooming everywhere else. So don't judge me harshly, Collins. Give me a chance and follow me closely. You will end up appreciating what I'm talking about. I mean well for the country, yourself inclusive.
Okay. Here's a text from somebody who says, this is on the issue that we talked about earlier on about copper minerals hitting accounts, staying here. So he says, merely having money from copper sales hitting a bank account domiciled in Zambia only for it to later be transferred to an offshore account isn't the solution. It's when that money is spent locally that real economic impact can be actualized.
Yes, I think that's what we meant. Look, when the money hits the accounts, it doesn't mean that it just hits the accounts and then it goes out. No, because in the process, the government of the Republic of Zambia will have access to that money because it is in our banks. Government will go and borrow from Zanaco and say, okay, we use this money for this, and eventually to filter through the economy. So that's what I meant. I didn't just say just hits the accounts and it goes. It will stay a bit in the country, of course, naturally. Nobody's going to transfer $200 million today, and then tomorrow again they're transferring it. No, even our policy, money policy hasn't agreed. So don't worry about that. We'll take care of that business when it comes to government.
Okay. Malama says there's no change is going to happen even if we change government today. These programs you come in and talk are just to woo voters. What's the core business of all you politicians? It's not to develop the country, but you come in to form government just to enrich yourself. This is from Malama, who's clearly a disillusioned, voter. Brian says the problem is most of the things that you're talking about to put into place when you come into power are not practical. Again, he doesn't think that they're practical. You think that they're practical, obviously. That's why you.
Maybe Brian, I could have been a bit generous to me if he had pointed out which areas are not practical. When I say that we are going to continue the building of the plant in Chongwe, that's not practical. When we say that the students will continue being trained to come and run our plant in Chongwe, that's not practical. When we say that we want to allow Zambians to begin running our mines, that's not practical. We should continue with the foreigners. Manawasa in 2007, if you recall, Uchi, there was an outcry from the wheat farmers, because wheat was coming in from Zimbabwe and South Africa, and so the wheat farmers were not realizing much in terms of profit. So what Manawasa's government did was to change the policy. They did increase the excise duty on wheat so that it became expensive to bring it in, and that it gave now leverage to the local farmers growing wheat in this country to grow their wheat. That is how you run an economy. That's how you run government. But if we allow milk, right now milk is coming from Uganda. Uganda is a very good nation that we can talk about. I did my university, as you know, in Uganda. But why should milk be coming from Uganda? Why? And I have talked to local farmers here concerning this same milk which is coming from Uganda. Even its bacteria content is quite high as compared to our milk here. Why can't we allow our farmers to supply our population with milk? We are getting milk from Uganda. We are getting milk from Zimbabwe. It's just lack of seriousness. Uganda can bring in their milk. Zimbabwe can bring in their milk because it's a global village. But it is the issue of taxing them when they're entering our market so that we can protect our farmers here. We need to protect our farmers, and it's not happening.
Climate change. Someone asked, what's the party's policy on charcoal burners and the end users?
Look, I think we have always talked about this issue that we need to look for more friendly forms of energy that we should be introducing. That's why even the using of gensets is not a good thing because it is affecting the climate, it's affecting the environment. We have said the issue of cutting down trees is not the way to go. We need to bring in friendly forms of energy. That's why we are encouraging biomass. That's why we are encouraging people to use cheap sources of energy as compared to what is before them. Because if you don't allow people to access solar easily, people will go and start cutting trees because they need energy. But if they can have access to LPG, they can have easy access to solar, if they can have easy access to just other forms of energy apart from the charcoal one, then you're going to improve our country's economic position as compared to what we are seeing now. People are being forced to go and cut trees and then they're using it as forms of energy, charcoal. That should not be encouraged at all because it is a disservice to our nation.
Okay. JZ asks, Mr. Kalaba must also talk about the expense side of the equation for withdrawing power exports. We had a similar situation under the previous government. That's from somebody called JZ.
Look, I did say that we are going to suspend the exportation of power for about 6 months. Then from the 6 months, we are going to see how the situation will have improved. It is not suspension in perpetuity, but it's a short-term measure which we are going to carry so that we can provide relief to our people in this country, as opposed to giving relief to the people in Namibia. Yes, we love the Namibians, we love the South Africans, but we will not love them at our own expense.
But I think his question is about the expense side. That there is an expense to you cutting, withdrawing the power expense.
No, I don't think the expense that you incur by not giving power to people during the day is equivalent to the expense that we are going through by giving those people. The expense is much more by us not having power during the productive times as compared to the time that we're giving them power. So it's only realistic, it's only reasonable that we should first of all service our people. The job of any government is to look after the interests of its own citizens. Not anything else, but the interests of its citizens. And the UPND is mandated to doing just that. They can't be looking at expenses. Otherwise, Wakaunda would not have given us electricity in the rural areas where there's no production coming. But he made sure that there were hydropower stations and there were mini hydropower stations everywhere, because he thought, regardless of how much you are producing for the national economy, you are citizens of this country. You need to be connected to the national grid. That's what we need.
Okay. Let me go back to the phone lines. 226-841-0978, 895-895. Let's try this other line. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, not getting this line. 226-841-0978, 895-895. Hello, good morning. Good morning. 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 Okay, sorry. What's your name? Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Mr. President, first I like the name of the party, the Citizen First.
Thank
okay,
you.
First you're looking at us. But President, quickly, I'd like to say this. Namibia is getting 70 megawatts, South Africa 100 megawatts, Congo 120, 290 megawatts is going out.
And Malawi also. And Malawi also is getting about 50 megawatts.
Yeah, is there a question? Is there a question? Oh, I think he's gone. I think we lost him. Hello, good morning. It's probably alive somewhere. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. 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 What's your name? Go ahead with your question. You're live on radio. Okay, it's another one who seems to be listening to radio instead of paying attention to the call. Hello, good morning. Good morning, sir. What's your name? Good morning. What's your name? What's your name? Yes, you're through to Radio Phoenix. You're through to the program. What's your name? All right. Let me read a text message for the callers so that they're on lines. SI 55 on returning export earnings to Zambia was put in place by the PF, removed by the PF when the late Finance Minister Chikwanda was Minister of Finance. Someone says that you should be truthful and not lie to people. Secondly, so there are three questions here. Secondly, when you resigned from the PF, you told us that the PF was corrupt and that you'd expose the former president's corruption. We're still waiting for that expose. Today, you're having lunch with him. How can we trust you? And then lastly, you referred to the late former President Sata's legacy wherever he worked. What legacy did you leave at the office of the Vice President, Ministry of Lands and Foreign Affairs?
Okay.
Sorry, there were three questions in there.
I mean, first of all, I'll start with the legacy question. What legacy did I leave when I was Foreign Minister? The Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, which has been refurbished and upgraded, was signed by me as Foreign Minister. The Levi Mwanawasa Hospital, which you are going to when you get sick, it was me who signed for it as Foreign Minister. The Ndola International Airport, to be created, was signed for by me as Foreign Affairs Minister. The refurbishment of the Minasoko Hospital was signed for by me as a Foreign Affairs Minister. The police got a lot of vehicles. The 900 bohos which were received across the country were signed for by me. the hammer mills, which the RNS is still using to give cheap milling meal in Bwengu and other areas of the country that was supplied by the Chinese were signed for by me as Foreign Affairs Minister. That is the legacy that I left. And then I left a very strong foreign policy, which was coined when I was Foreign Minister. So there are a number of incentives that I did when I was Minister of Foreign Affairs. So you can hear. In the Office of the Vice President, you'll recall that I think that office has never been as active from the time that I left. When I was Deputy Minister in the Office of the Vice President, it was like it was the only ministry. President Sata even had to appoint another minister for us to be two because of the kind of work I was doing in that portfolio. So I am a goal-oriented person, and I think what I have just mentioned to you, just a bit of what I achieved when I was a minister, and that is the legacy that you can point to. So when you go to Levi Mwanawasa Hospital, you always remember. When you go to your stadium there in Levi Stadium, you always remember that, oh, so it was Harry Kalaba who signed for this. So those are some of the things. Livingston in the Harry Mwangankumbula, it was Harry Kalaba who signed for those projects. So we have done a lot for the country. The fact that we don't talk about them does not mean that we didn't do the work. We did the work, a lot of diligence. Let others also tell us what they have done since they came into government, because we did that ourselves. Then he says that I'm misleading the people when I talk about SI 55. Yes, but the point I was trying to make was that the UPN, if they were interested and serious and looking at the welfare of this country, one of the policy positions they should have visited is the issue of SI 51, SI 54, in fact, and SI 55, which they should have visited. Why haven't they visited it up to now? Why have they let these mining companies to be exporting our copper, sell it in Geneva, and the proceeds remain in Geneva, go to Bangkok, go to Thailand, and wherever the money is going? Why isn't it coming back to Zambia? We are saying if they are serious about the Zambian people, if they are serious about ending the liquidity squeeze in the economy, they should be able to allow for the money to be coming back here.
There was a third question in there.
Well, the third question
Yes.
was you are whining and dining with Edgar,
Yes, yeah.
and that you should have... Look, I resigned as Foreign Affairs Minister. I didn't agree with what was happening at the time. And I remained extremely respectful, even when I left government. When you look at the UPND today, I want the person who's asking me this question to ask, what is the Minister of Health, Muchima? What is Mr. Muchima doing in this government? Because Mr. Muchima was very critical of Mr. Kainde Hichilema. What is he doing in UPND? What is Madam Sylvia Masebo doing in the UPND? Because Madam Sylvia Masebo, as you know, she was in UNIP, then she went in MMD, then she went in PF, then she joined the UPND, and she was very critical of the UPND. Why is she there? Why is Madam Nalumango today the Vice President of UPND? Because Madam Nalumango was very critical of Mr. Kainde Hichilema when she was Deputy Speaker there, MP from Kaputa. What is she doing in UPND government? So sometimes when you ask a question, because the players, and for me I don't fault Mr. Kainde Hichilema for working with all those people. Because they say a wise man changes his mind sometimes, a fool doesn't. I'm sure Mr. Hichilema has seen that those people now have aligned to his policies, and they have to co-opt them. And you can't fault him. We are saying the PF has learned lessons. That's the question that I answered earlier. They are not in government, sir. They have left government. It doesn't mean when you are married to a woman and you divorce, you are the child between the two of you. When that child dies, you go for the funeral. They'll say, no, but how can you go to the funeral where your divorced wife will also be because you people divorced? Then it means that there's something wrong with your thinking. Here the point is, we have to admit that there was something that was not right in the past. Somebody took a very proactive stance. Instead of being commended, you are busy admonishing. I think we should learn to celebrate courage in this country. It is rare to see people walk out on principle. And when we come into politics, like the other guy was saying, all politicians, is it Collins, they are coming into government just to feed themselves. It's not true. We are here to just correct the status quo. We are seeing how corruption has grown. We have seen how corruption has been institutionalized. We have seen how permanent secretaries can be suppliers and they remain in their offices. We have seen how those who are connected to the powers that be, this government, can do anything that they want. We have seen how people are supplying fuel almost single-handedly because they're being supported by the powers that be to this country. Even when there are fuel shortages, they don't care for as long as they're bringing in fuel, which is more expensive for us to consume. And when we speak, they say, no, they have to continue. No ways. We'll speak for the people of Zambia because we will not be tied to mediocrity and to be agreeing to things that are not correct.
Danny says, believes that you're taking credit for delegated authority. That's not your legacy, but of the person that sent you to sign on their behalf. But again, we can debate this on another day.
No, but I think it's a fair question because who doesn't do? Because even a president who says, I have done the Mansal Wingo Road, it's delegated authority to the people of Zambia. For you to do anything in the government, you must have been delegated authority. So you asked me a question, what is the legacy that you did? And I was just telling you, when I was in that office which I was given, these are some of the initiatives, these are some of the works that I did when I was your foreign minister.
Okay. You spoke about Zambia not having produced a millionaire. This is so because of politicians who always want to be looked at as financially superior than the ordinary Zambian. When you see someone doing better, you unleash government machinery through ZRA, ACC, and other agencies to make sure that he's brought down in preference to foreign businessmen. This has been the tendency of every successive government.
And it's wrong, Nuche. It's very, very wrong that we should allow people that are working hard to be humiliated like that. That is why we're not producing a billionaire in this country. The culture in this country is just not right, where we feel that we should all be on the same level. It can't work like that. The culture in this country where we feel that a politician must be competing with a businessman in terms of making money is not correct. We need to understand that me as a politician, my role is social work. It is to enhance development, to make sure that the country has an enabling environment for investment, to make sure that the country can make progress without acrimony, and so on and so forth. While for a businessman, theirs is profit making. They'll put their money where they think they'll get their profits. And they want to work in an enabling environment. These are two distinct roles that we have. But for me to feel bad that Lucci is making a lot of money and therefore I have to discourage him by putting the Anti-Corruption Commission on him, we are not helping the economy. If America was doing that, even Elon Musk would not be where he is today.
It's good you mentioned people like Elon Musk because one of the places where I think that as a country we haven't developed.
And I forgot Mr. Mtati. Mr. Mtati is in UPND.
Okay.
And Mr. Mtati is he's now Minister of Technology. So that one was asking the question.
Okay.
You should understand that Mr. Mtati is eating
Okay.
while those who were fighting for UPND are outside.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I was saying that one of our problems as a country is that we don't support the private sector. Because the private sector is supposed to be the engine for any country's growth. When you talk about employment, and this is success, this is not just this particular, this is successive governments. When we talk about employment, for example, we never narrow down and say how many jobs has the private sector created, because the reality is there are not many. Job creation seems to have been left to the government. The government will employ teachers, government will employ nurses, doctors, etc., etc. But I think that there comes a time when, as a country, we need to start focusing on how do we enhance private sector participation so that the private sector can create these jobs. In America, Tesla employs X number of people. Google employs X. Apple, all of these big, and they're all private sector driven. They're not government agencies. I submit.
And that is where the answer lies. When the UPND came into government, the only thing they've been talking about is the employment of nurses, which is a government program. They're not even ashamed. They've been talking about teachers, which is a government program. Now, those nurses and teachers you are saying you have employed, where did you employ them? Because you employed them in infrastructure which was built by your colleagues in the previous regimes. What have you built yourselves? What have you built? Nothing. So, these people must understand that when they say that they are bringing in a businessman who understands how business works, we expected President Hakainde Hichilema to tell us the number of jobs he has created in the private sector, because it's coming from the private sector. How many jobs has he created? Teacher. Those are government programs and you are paid for that. How many private jobs have you created? How many investors have come in this country and you say they have employed X number of youths? Nothing. Those companies that you found already existing, what incentive have you given them so that they can employ more people? What you are doing is to begin targeting companies that you think were working with the previous government and you want to bring them down. By you bringing down those people and not paying them, those companies not paying them, you are basically punishing your own citizens. What they needed to do is what we will do ourselves when we come into government. A businessman who's operating under the UPND today, Luchi, will still be a businessman operating under the Citizens First government. A businessman is constant. Theirs, as I said earlier on, is business interests. While for us politicians, our tenure is limited. For the business people, it is not limited. So you cannot say, you people were eating, and that's the way they like using our UPND. You people were eating in PF. Because you are eating in PF, Sian Kwen Wanzana Badia Komanja mu UPND. Ushapan Vakuta is about eating, was about providing a service. You have got people who are good at providing pharmaceuticals. They have been doing it over the last 15, 20 years. These people, you don't want to use them. What do? You go and find a company, a pharmacy company in Kalingalinga, or is it Garden Compound there, and supply the vehicles for a Ministry of Health. A pharmacy. You live to Zambia, but you go to a pharmacy in Garden Compound to give you supply motor vehicles. And then you say, they have not supplied, will cancel the tender. Then I ask Mr. Muchima, what authority do you have as minister to cancel a tender? Because you don't even sit on the tender committee. A ministerial tender committee is chaired by the permanent secretary, who is the controlling officer of that particular ministry. Yours as minister is policy direction. So all those things, they are telling you that we have a problem in this country. What is supposed to be done is to create an enabling environment. Give tax incentives to the local businessmen. Stop harassing businessmen and women who worked in the previous governments. Allow them to flourish and work with whoever you want to bring in, so that they work together, because they are Zambians. That's what we'll do when we come into government. We are going to get businessmen who worked in UNIP, if they're still there, those who worked in MMD, those who worked, let them come and tender, let them come and tender, because this is their country.
2268410978895. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Morning.
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Is a very, very good friend of mine. And that friendship is consolidated by the fact that he had a bachelor's degree from UNZA in special education. So it's called to persons with disabilities. And if I'm using the word if what I've been saying is true, then it's really very, very regrettable indeed. But me, I'll try to meet him. I'll meet him one day. I've heard a lot about him in particular and others in which about this business. What's happening in Israel and everywhere in Zambia is really not good politically. And that includes you, Mr. Kao. Your submission. Your submission is persuaded, perforated with the possible utopia, euphoria, and even homophobia. When I come president, we are going to do this. They do this. They do that. They do that. This is what we call utopia. Utopiology. And that's what has destroyed Zambia. That's the politics of utopia. Politics of utopia. You paper people who is in Kenya to no. Politics of euphoria, like we do in UPND. This what was done now would not be done for the 6 years ago. When we have done, I wonder who did do it. That's president bakwakanunga namakota poison that question now.
Professor Ngwale, thank you very much. If you're looking for a speechwriter, by the way, if you're looking for a speechwriter,
yeah, concerning
if you're looking for a
utopia and
yeah,
euphoria and utopiology.
Yeah, I think you
I know who to talk to.
Yeah, you know who to talk to. Do you want to quickly respond, or can I take another 2 calls?
I think let's take calls.
Okay, all right. Hello, good morning. Bruno Bunch, boss. Bruno Bunch, boss. Mauka Bunch.
Inenauka kayaimwe.
No, my president, the president but it's my question, which issue am I like the president? I'm also concerned citizen, and business. But my life will not get everything. So right now, put my life in blackout. You can go up and so much for that. You can 7 hours in the president. Yeah, so much is the one of president. My president, you will move from Kitambisa. I think government, you just got a direct I see a push on my life. It's something that's really much of a problem. We just got a direct I'm putting up.
Mr. Fraser, can you? I can't, Mr. Fraser, I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear him, but I can't hear him clear. Yeah. What you do is cut the line, try and call back 264 0978 895 895. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Morning. I'm alright, thank you. What's your name? Okay, what's your name though?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
What's your name, sir? What's your? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about the electricity as my fellow friend Fraser is crying. We're intermediate is getting 7 African rate, Bongo 120, making them to 90. Surely we are languishing. You can't put your president on Congo. It's the one. All the promises and I do that. One of them top on trade on electricity. You can't find your president. And what is your saying over this? You are not to summarize it. They are committed to say that we're going to summarize all the time. Is that your chance, your president? And last I think I'd like to say this, for president, I've been following Captain America. Okay? He is my fellow friend from my country. We are coming, we'd like to see you at the office. Thank you so much. We're waiting for the number. We need your number here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fraser. Okay, I've got 2 questions, but I want you to respond because this might take long. Just respond to the calls. Then I've got 2 text messages that I want you to respond.
Okay, I think I'll respond with Councillor Daka. Daka, thank you very much. I think you're in good hands. Since you're dealing with the incoming member of parliament for Chawama, Captain Mulenga, I think keep on talking to him. It's important. I think Mulenga is vying for Chawama next year, so I would encourage you to work with him closely. Then to see me, you'll find me at the secretariat when you are arranged with Captain Mulenga. I'll be told when I should come. I think by Elijah Angwal, I think we agreed to say will not say much because he has given guidance on the issue of utopia. He's saying that you keep on saying I'll do this. So I don't understand what I should be saying when I come on a program like this one. Because mine is to allow people to know what the position of our party is, which is to tell them that hope is not lost, hope is on the way. Then President when I'm going to come back Mrs. Malaiti aenda Malaiti basta ngati wagona pamene abwera 7 hours 6 hours yaenda ichimozi konse na mafrizits vantu manje banale kopanga mkombo ichika kulibe malaiti masaluni vantu vanavala kulibe malaiti market ngati mwaenda vantu vazokulisa nsomba mu call box vanasiya kulibe malaiti business y'abantu malonda y'abantu abonongeka chifukwa malaiti kulibe manje malaiti boma yatu igulisa ku Namibia boma yatu igulisa malaiti ku DRC igulisa ku Malawi igulisa ku South Africa nze nabafunsa ine wayimugulisira malaiti aya vanakambati manje ngati ajamata metigulise ngati ayabweza muno mziko yatu zambela bwanji wajaku Namibia so manje ine nadabo bazambela bwanji waku Namibia manje setimvela bwanji from 6 hours mpaka 22 hours tipe malaiti timvela bwanji so chimilangizana ati iboma yatu sita ilako nzelu maningi ku bantu batu amene bavutika mwamisisi na mkanyama so imwe solution hapa ili pafupi alo solution ili simple ni kubacha kamuna mu 2026 ni kubacho sama maoffices my elections next year mukafaka muise manje ndiye nkana meso afuna mvera ba ilaja ngwali so ifuna mvera yonkani manje bacha bakabachosa tifuna malaiti setikakonze chifukwa simungazigulisa malaiti imwe mudibe malaiti ine sinyo namo chilungamo.
A text from someone who says it's quite unfortunate that Mr. Kalaba doesn't seem to understand the benefits of PPPs. Yes, NAPSA has provided some of the funds for the project, but is he not aware that the purpose of pension funds is to invest funds for good returns for retirees? Has he seen the return on investment for NAPSA on this particular investment for him to disapprove of it?
No. I've been misunderstood.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, because what I said was PPP in itself is not bad. Then I explained what I understood by a public-private partnership. I said for a public-private partnership, it must be an investor who should raise the capital, invest his capital, and then he will recoup his capital over a certain period of time. That's how a PPP works. But in this instance, I was saying, why have you given the contract to an outsider when in fact you have Zambians who could have still used the money that has come from NAPSA and workers' compensation? Why would you prefer a foreigner to use our money, our own contribution to those institutions, instead of our local contractors? That's the question I was asking, sir.
Okay. There was a question here as well from somebody asking about marketeers and what your plan is to do to help out marketeers in this country.
I think I have said this time without number. The first people that should be helped, I'm not going to go tell this maningi number one, I mean marketeers. For marketeers, yajama council levy, I mean much increase, I mean mutenga almost every day Africa kulipia. If you suspended those council levies for a period of time to allow them boost their capital, you are giving them an incentive. Marketeers vaja, if you said we want to build your capital or we'll put up a bank and then we'll give you collateral, because CEEC, for instance, Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission is along Ekazija. That CEC was meant to help people like marketeers.
Which they do by them.
It's very complicated because they're asking them for collateral. I have followed up what happens at CEC.
Not really, not for marketeers. No.
Marketeers, there are very few marketeers who access that money.
Marketeers booster, I think it's called a booster fund, which they give without collateral.
Okay, but how much money are they getting and how many are accessing that fund? That's the question. You can have something, but how many are accessing that fund? There are very few of them. If there were a number of them, we would have seen that the livelihood of our people at that level would have gone up. But you find that it is permanent secretaries, it is ministers who are going there at CEC to boost their own businesses. That is wrong and must come to an end. Because CEC was done when we saw what was happening with the black empowerment thing in South Africa. And we said we can replicate something similar. But here, it is those who are doing well, who are the ones who are benefiting, as opposed to those who are struggling.
Not entirely.
There
are some people.
No, but we need to do more for the marketeers.
There are a lot of businesses. There's a lot of business people who have benefited from.
Aluch, you are seated here in Radio Phoenix. Go to Kanyama Market. Go to Lubama Market. Go to Soweto Market and see how a marketeer is struggling, Luchi. If that fund is working as it is working, their lives would have changed. That fund is not working as it is being proposed. The president was saying, you people should have solar, because then you can even start selling power to Zesco in Zangena. That's the same story we're talking about CEC. It is easier said than done. Our marketeers are vutika. Taxi drivers, the other day, I was dealing with younger drivers. Younger drivers have been crying. Kuti vamene ava government vathu imutandizeni koni ise few valunda amalonda every month but ise cashing is very constant. We can't make it. We are literally putting ourselves in debt. Kuti vamene vahambira younger drivers, but we are going to take up this matter with the younger drivers. We'll talk for them, because you can't have a company that is just sitting on the rights of your own citizens and nobody's talking about them. This government,
It's optional.
if it was a foreigner,
It's optional.
no, Oluchi can't say that.
No, I'm just saying it's optional.
But
Sorry, I've always argued that point, that it's and I even when I get on Yango, and I get on them quite a few, especially in the past couple of weeks. When I have these conversations with the drivers, I always say, "Why don't you just leave?" I mean, I hear
and then
your
do
comments,
what? And then do what?
But leave.
Leave and do and go where?
What did you said to me earlier on? You said that there is unity
In diversity.
No. There's that wonderful line about united we stand, divided we fall. And that's the line I've always said to them. That if you are all united and all of you decide that, you know what, we're all going to leave, then they won't change.
Now you are talking.
Yes.
But when you tell one person to say leave,
yes,
and then I leave, I go where?
Exactly. And that's
it's like a farmer is complaining.
It's optional. You have a choice.
I know, but you can't tell me, a farmer, that because fertilizer I do, I should not talk about it. I should then leave farming and how many things am I going to leave, Luchi? Let's correct things and help our younger drivers. I think government is being extremely unfair on the younger drivers. That's why we have got a Ministry of Labor. They should have dealt with Yango and told them to be in tandem. If I have got somebody working for me at home, I'm giving them slave wages, and then they go to the labor office and say, look, I think they're not following the minimum criteria of how they should be paying me. Leave. If we develop that attitude, because that's the UPND attitude of saying, leave, VCN. Now, TVCN and Tendekuti. Tizatia chant Kavisia. Already we are struggling. Kapena kwa yangu. Because my younger drivers, what is keeping them is just hope. Nobody is talking about the younger drivers. But I want to tell them on this platform, we are going to fight their battle, and one day you will not leave. Because that's why you have seen your income. That's why you think you can make money. It is the job of government to help you. They should make the environment enabling. And they should not be lazy by telling you, follow Luchi's example of saying, come together all of you. No, Luchi has a brilliant thing you have brought in there. Come together all of you and just say, we are downing our tools. Yango will run away the way they ran away in Morocco. Because you could only Yango. They should not be mistreating our people. No.
One last point. Somebody came with a note.
And Luchi, you keep on bringing my questions, which are anti-ant. There are so many sweet questions I've seen there. You've been skipping them.
You haven't seen a single question. Do you have to be president to make a change? Some of the most influential people in the world that have made a lot of change in their countries are not presidents.
Yeah, I mean, in my line of thought where I am, in my line of progress, I can only make change when I am at the very apex. I have made changes when I was minister, like I was telling you about what I did when I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, when I was Minister of Lands, when I was Deputy Minister and also Vice President. But the kind of changes that Zambia wants now require a leader of this type so that we can change the status quo. And yes, we'll make our changes right now where we are at this level, but to have that change be seen and be implemented, my levels of influence need to be approved by Zambian people.
Okay. From one Manchester United fan to another Arsenal fan, thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you, Lucha, and thank you for having me. Thank you to our listeners. I also want to thank my colleagues who took time to listen and those that sent in their questions. Regardless of how you frame the question, it's okay. We are a free country, and my job as a leader is to answer your questions and on how you are feeling it. I know that there are a lot of questions which were commending us, which was skipping them, but it's okay. For now, we look to the future. Thank you so much for having me here.
It can only be said by an Arsenal fan. But I suppose here's a sweet question as we finish off. This is from Patrick. Patrick is in Doha. And he says, Mr. Kalaba reminds me a lot of the late Dean Mulomba. How different can he be to achieve what the late Dean failed to achieve and be recognized?
It is us working together. We learn from our mistakes. Maybe what Dean Mulomba did not achieve was that he was not supported. We sometimes wait a lot to wait and see You know, many political parties have failed to make it in this country because people will say, no, let's wait and see. In the wait and see, the party suffocates, drowns, and goes off the market. To remain relevant in this country, to run a political party in this country is not easy. To succeed also is not easy. We need your support. We need your backing. Only your backing will make that difference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luchi, for having me. Always happy to be here.
Thanks a lot.